start with State Representatives District 73, and we've joined this morning with Ed Comstock and Jennifer Meltzer. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
All right, so we will start. We kind of have a routine that we go through, and we start with a 2-minute introduction from each candidate. Ed, just of how it falls with the alphabet is who will start, and then once again you get a 2 minute. So let me get our timer ready. We'll start that, and after State Rep 73, we've also have Decatur County Council Districts 2, 3, and 4 in this morning. So, Ed, you ready to kick it off?
Yeah, let's kick it off.
All right, your 2 minutes has started.
All right, I'm Edward Comstock, Republican candidate for State House 73. And, of course, at the top of it says Addison Township, Shelbyville, and Union Township. And then we also go all the way over here through Waldron, St. Paul. And then we have Letts, Indiana. We don't have Westport proper, but we appreciate the Volunteer Fire Department in Westport providing Jackson Township. Then we go over to in James County to Geneva Township. Then we go from Azalea all the way back up to Shelbyville. And we welcome all the listeners that are outside Decatur County. We will cover a lot from Decatur County here, but there's also members of the district and all, of course, anyone listening. A lot of the things that we talk about affect anyone living in the state of Indiana. On the agriculture, I'm very positive on agriculture. I support the right to work on your farm equipment, and that's been a big topic in many other states. Of course, I'm against solar farms, wind farms, and data centers. I believe I'm a supply sider, and I'm a conservative, and I'm pretty non-staunch on no new taxes. We need to lower a lot of times our fuel taxes here in the state. We've got people leaving the state to buy gasoline, not to mention cigarettes. Protecting our agriculture, like I said, is very important. And we're going to defend life. I'm very pro-life. And I'd like to encourage everyone to reach out to me. Later today, I will be at the Flat Rock Fish Fry. And later today, after that, I'll be at the Hope Volunteer Fire Department Spaghetti Dinner. And I really enjoyed last night being in Bartholomew County's 4-H fundraiser for their fair. And then this morning I was at the Farm Bureau breakfast. So a lot of great youth.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Ed Comstock. That's our first candidate for State Representative District 73. Next up, good morning, Jennifer Meltzer.
Good morning. Thank you for having me and the opportunity to speak to all the WTRE listeners this morning. Looking forward to the conversation we're going to have. I am Jennifer Meltzer. I am your current elected state representative. I've held this position for 2 terms, so I'm running for a 3rd term, hoping that the voters can look at my voting record and look at the things that I've done and re-elect me for 2 more years. Professionally, I am an attorney, and I've been practicing law since 2009, which I think tells my age a little bit. Mom to 3. Our girls are now 14, 12, and 9, so they've grown up in the last 4 years that we've been doing this. Happily married to my husband, Trent, who is a circuit court judge in Shelby County. We live in Shelbyville. My opponent, Mr. Comstock, walked through where this district are at. It is a portion of Shelby, Decatur, Bartholomew, and Jennings counties, and I have tried my best to stay in contact with all 4 of those counties throughout each session, really listen to what my constituents are emailing me about, what their concerns are, respond to those, and vote accordingly, and I would plan to continue to do that for the next 2 years. Looking forward to the conversation this morning.
All right, thank you so much. I was just commenting yesterday how your girls have grown up because when you ran for that first term, I remember recording them, and they were little and have gotten much older these days.
They are much older.
All right, we're going to start with our questions this morning. Jennifer, we'll start with you since Ed was the first to go in introductions. This question will be posed to both of you. Balancing the budget is an ongoing conversation and struggle to maintain. Currently, 47% of the budget goes to K through 12, 22% to Medicaid, while only 9% to higher education. It's forecasted that the cost of Medicaid will continue to rise. What is the approach to a balanced budget, and how do you work on making Medicaid a smaller portion of the budget with education taking more of a priority?
So this past session, we passed a bill that really looks at those individuals that are on the Medicaid rolls and trying to make sure that the people that are on the Medicaid rolls are the people that most of us would think should be on the Medicaid rolls. So your young mothers, children, the elderly, not individuals who are able-bodied and should be working. And so we are doing a reevaluation, and the feds did this as well in Congress. And so there really is a push to look at a lot of the individuals who got on Medicaid during 2020 because of COVID that are still on Medicaid that should probably be removed. Don't want to over-remove, don't want to hurt someone's health care. That is a having preventative care, seeing a doctor on a regular basis is a great way to actually lower the cost of healthcare. And so we don't want to kick someone off Medicaid that needs to be on there and would otherwise not have healthcare. But we are going to, through the bill, take a better look at who's on there and really reevaluate. So I think that's one way to rein in Medicaid. It has been increasing, so that 22% that you said, it was 18% the first time that we did a budget. So, and then prior to that, I believe it's really increased from 9% up to that 22 over the last decade or so. So we do need to rein it in. And then as far as focusing on education, that's always been our priority. We do the 2+2, so you get a 2% increase in that first budget year and then another 2% increase in that second budget year. So that has been a priority the 2 years that we did a budget while I was in session, and we only do a budget every other year. So we'll be doing one next year would be when we look at the budget again.
All right, thank you. All right, Ed?
Well, what we really need to look at is how we're spending the money and how we're cutting up the pieces of the pie. And, we passed the lottery in 1988, and to give you an idea, that money is supposed to go directly to education. I've never had anybody tell me it didn't. It went directly to education. It went to the general fund. Now you can do bills where it goes by, but what I'd like to do is change the state constitution and have that directly on your property taxes. You do have a basic property tax that comes from the Northwest Territory. And if you want to go to a great place, the Meltzer School on 600 and 244 in Shelby County, where my grandfather Kochmeyer went to school, is a great place to remember what our archaic tax system is. What I'd like to do is lower some taxes, change some things around where we can do that. I have no idea really what they've done in the last 2 years, the legislature. In fact, our Governor Braun, I think he's crazy half the time. And we're looking at things like a toll road on 70, his administration is. And yes, I am a Republican, but I am allowed to disagree. That's why we have open primaries. And the biggest thing we really need to look at is we really need to see as a party, we really need to figure out what we really stand for in the Republican Party, because there's no excuses for us Republicans. We're 70-30 in the State House and 40-10. It really, I've joked that it doesn't really matter who the governor is, because the State House is just going to override the governor even if he vetoes it. So we're going to do what we need to do in the State House. I had a great meeting with the superintendent of Shelby Eastern Schools. I'll come back to that later. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next question, we'll start with Ed. In recent months, over the last year, there's been ample discussion both in our community as well as surrounding communities regarding solar and data centers. Do you feel they have a place in Indiana, and how should they be regulated?
Well, we really need to have some leadership from the State House. And I'm not really sure how things are really going up there. There's always a lot of fluff at the State House and the State Senate, and because you've got people from 92 counties coming up there, you've got people that represent multiple counties. Basically, in a lot of our counties, we don't have a lot of water to support a lot of these big projects like that. Like in Shelby County, the one that's going on, they're fighting right now, is we really don't have a lot of water in Shelby County. And you know, I'm really against all that type of things. I really want, the truth is I want Plant 2 built. I'm retired from Honda. I don't have a pension from them. I do have a 401k I draw. Just recently, before that, I retired from the Air Force. But I really want to focus on projects that create jobs, just not caretakers like the one just south of Morristown, and the one they're proposing outside of Shelbyville. I don't think it'll bring any long-lasting jobs like Plant 2 will, which will probably create 2,000 auto worker jobs plus 1,000 warehousing jobs. And to give you an idea, supporting small business is really the key to building our tax base in the state of Indiana.
All right, thank you. Jennifer?
So I think I've pretty consistently stated that when it comes to solar or data centers or any type of business, that I strongly believe in local control. I strongly believe that our local elected city council members, mayors, county council members, commissioners should be the ones who are deciding whether or not a certain development makes sense in their backyard. I think certainly I have a unique perspective on Shelbyville's data center, having formerly been the city attorney for a portion of when that project was being considered. I believe the vote on that is April 6th. So specifically with solar, I think that your county council, your commissioners really need to look at setbacks. They need to look at their zoning ordinances, and they need to decide whether or not that is something that's good for their current farmland and whether or not it is something that makes sense. I also strongly believe in property rights. You have bought your property, you have maintained it, you have farmed it, potentially your family has farmed it for 100, 200 years, and if it comes to the point where you as a family decide that it is in your interest to sell your property to a manufacturer for Plant 2 or for a food business or for a hotel or for any other type of development, including solar or data centers, it's your property. You have those rights as long as that development then complies with the local ordinances that should be local control. Specifically with regard to data centers, I do have concerns that we have put in some very friendly statutes specifically for data centers that don't exist for any other type of business in the Indiana Code. In this past session, I was working behind the scenes trying to actually have some of those amended, specifically the one in Title VI that has to do with tax abatements. There is a section in the Indiana Code that allows only data centers to enter into a tax abatement agreement that would last longer than a normal tax abatement would. So I was unsuccessful, but something that I'll certainly look at next year if I'm reelected.
All right, thank you. Next question, and Jennifer, we'll start with you. In Decatur County, mental health has become a top priority. We were awarded Lilly grant money to help implement access to different mental health services. It's been shown that access to mental health care and the opioid epidemic are limited across the state of Indiana. How can these services be improved in Indiana to provide constituents what they need and the help they need?
So I've been in conversations with some of my colleagues my entire time that I've been in the State House with regards to opening regional mental health facilities, and I think we are starting to actually get more of my colleagues to see that this is something that is needed. So I am hopeful that if reelected next year that I'll work all summer on a bill with my colleagues to hopefully start to implement that process and to reopen not state hospitals but regional mental health facilities, so specifically being focused on addiction and mental health. With regards to specifically the opioid epidemic, there is a lot of money that is sitting in FSSA right now, Family Social Services Administration, that has come in from your bad actors, so your big three manufacturers, through the opioid litigation. FSSA did a grant program, and that grant program has expired. I would like to see them reopen that and push that money back out to locals so that they can use it how they feel is necessary, and potentially we could tap into that money for these regional mental health facilities as well. So I think those are good options that are being discussed and are on the table.
All right, thank you. Ed?
Well, as I said earlier, before my time expired, on another question, I had a meeting with Dr. Hitchcock, the superintendent of Shelby Eastern Schools. If you're not familiar with that term, that's Waldron and Morristown in eastern Shelby County. And we talked about many things, but one of the things we talked about was a new program at Waldron Elementary for children handling grief. And it could be anything that's upsetting a small child. It's pre-K through 5 there. So it could be a loss of a pet or a grandparent or horribly not a parent. And that's one of the things we really need to look at that early, and that's a great program. And as far as the Decatur County, we have St. Paul, which is partially in Decatur County, and we have partially in Shelby County. And we need to, sometimes between Decatur County and Shelby County, we need to be able to work together and make sure that we're serving those residents in St. Paul, Indiana. And one of the big things that we must do, there's veterans programs and everything like that. And there's a lot of times when I talk to veterans groups, I tell people, listen, we really need to have family friendly programs. If we have family friendly programs in the state of Indiana, that will help veterans, because everyone has a veteran like myself in your family. And there's many things, but there's a lot of things that we probably shouldn't do at the State House that we do. And we have to have a discussion in the Republican Party, along with all the members of the State House and the State Senate and the Braun administration. It is, is there some things we should be doing and some things we shouldn't be doing? And the Joshua Center, they do a lot of work in the Shelby County and Johnson County. Well, I would love to have them come down to Decatur County as well.
All right. Next question, and Ed, we'll start with you on this one. Senate Enrolled Act 1 was focused on property tax relief, providing credits to homeowners and reduction to tax liability for businesses. Subsequently, it has a financial impact on local governments and schools that can result in cutting staff and reduction in services. How do you feel this should be combated from the local perspective, and what are your feelings on the impact on education?
Well, first of all, Dr. Hitchcock, the superintendent at Shelby Eastern, and I had a very good conversation, like I said earlier, and we discussed a lot of that. And there's a lot of things that go into your educational budget. The fuel tax hits. Most of your school districts don't own their own school buses, so they hire a contractor, so they're paying this outrageous fuel tax. Not only does it going up next month, here in a few days, but it's also going up by law July 1st. And that affects your transportation cost. And that's really hitting, because most of these school districts, they might own 50% of their bus. They may not of their buses in their fleet. And that really affects things like that. What we really need to do is, of course, the voter needs to make sure they know who's on our school board. Of course, Greensburg community has a appointed school board for the mayor, and we need to figure out, the city of Greensburg and Washington Township and Northern Marion Township, they need to find out. They need to really figure out: do we want to continue having a mayor that's appointed school board, or do you want to have an elected school board? A lot of these things need to be worked out with trustees, which I firmly believe and support, along with volunteer fire departments. Property taxes is a very complicated issue as far as different money. In Ohio, they're fighting this big thing about getting rid of property taxes, but they're just like Indiana. They call them levies, we call them bonds. But what does that mean? Well, until we fund education properly, instead of this archaic tax system that we have from the Northwest Territory, our property taxes are just going to be insane anyway. So that's basically what it comes down to. We got to figure out how to properly fund education to start with.
All right, thank you. All right, Jennifer?
So when we were discussing SEA 1 in the 2025 session, the main goal was to give property tax relief to residential homes, because a lot of us had been knocking on doors, and that's what we kept hearing was like, my property tax bill just keeps going up. And the reason it kept going up was because assessed values were going up, and assessed values were going up because homes were selling for more and still are selling for more. as homes start selling for less, assessed values will follow and will come back down as well, which will reduce property taxes. But we were looking at it, we're saying, but that ebb and flow of how property taxes are assessed was not going to be the relief that we wanted to give our constituents. So that was the goal behind SEA 1. After it passed, I was in communication with Mayor Marsh, school board members, superintendents, and I heard all the concerns that this question alludes to. So this session we went in and we took those concerns and we've addressed several of them in the annual Department of Local Government Finance bill. And one having to do with maximum growth quotient levy, one having to do with how they do their bonds, and a big thing that I think was really taken into consideration in SCA 1 when it was finally amended on seconds was that you can't default on your bonds. So a bond is basically a loan. Just like you have a mortgage on your house, the school would have basically, it's called a bond, but it's essentially almost a mortgage on the school building that they have built. If you were to default on that bond, you've effectively almost foreclosed on your school building. It doesn't work exactly like that, but that's the easiest example I can give. And so that was something that we were really trying to make sure that we took into consideration and made sure that we weren't defaulting on those bonds. So that's kind of how SEA 1 works. I think we came to a good balance in the end. I think there's obviously some work that still needs to be done. We said in 2025 that this was going to be a multiple year process, and we've continued that process. And when it really comes to school funding, what we've been trying to look at is deregulation and taking into consideration how to reduce their expenses by reducing the number of regulations while keeping our kids safe and learning effectively.
That's time. Thank you very much. This will be the last question before our wrap up. Jennifer, we'll start with you. Very simple question as constituents are listening. If reelected and going back to the State House, what is your top priority?
So I've pretty consistently been focused on mental health and addiction. My first session and second session, I addressed xylazine. My third session, I really looked at test strips and making sure that they were decriminalized. This past session didn't have a bill that had directly dealt with mental health, but did have one that dealt with the criminal penalties for resisting law enforcement and specifically when fleeing in a vehicle. Trying to make sure that our criminal codes are on par with each other. And so I would continue that work. I've done a lot of work in the administrative law, trying to make it fair for Hoosiers when they appear in front of administrative law judges. And so those are the things that I have really started to dig into and have enjoyed, and I would continue to work on those things.
All right. Ed, if elected, what's your top priority?
Well, I really feel that mental health is a really, what we need to do is really increase our community involvement. And while, of course, I'll do is I'll continue reaching out to our constituents in the district of 73, and maybe have some. I really want to have some town meetings, especially in towns like St. Paul and Elizabethtown, and maybe have some things at Westport. I know Westport's not technically in the district, but it's got a strong church area. And of course Jackson Township in Jennings County, in Decatur County gets their fire protection from there. Supporting the volunteer fire departments is very crucial, because if you have a medical emergency or a mental health crisis where you can't deal with anything, a lot of times the first responder is going to be a volunteer in our state, and it's very important that we support our first responders. And if the biggest thing I want everyone to realize is I have an open door, and I will always be willing to meet with you. I'm not going to have any judgment on anyone, but I really look forward to meeting the voters and potential voters in the upcoming weeks. And thank you for having us here today.
All right, thanks, Ed. So we will then start our wrap-ups. Jennifer, we'll start the wrap-up with you since Ed was the first to go. It's a 3-minute wrap-up to just let voters know where you stand, and you can go ahead and start.
Thank you for having me this morning and allowing me the opportunity to discuss the things that we've done in the State House for the last 4 years and where I think I see us going in the next couple of years. I have enjoyed the legal aspect of being state representative. I have enjoyed digging into bills and really trying to help my colleagues to find good common sense policy that when the words are on paper, you can actually implement them on July 1st when they go into law. And I would enjoy and would appreciate the opportunity to continue to do that. We have lowered taxes. We have really tried to work hard to recognize the struggles that I know my constituents are feeling today and have been feeling since 2020 and things started skyrocketing in price. I know I'm personally surprised when I go and buy groceries for our family of 5 how much it costs, and just how much everything costs. And so I really do want to focus on making sure that we are keeping as much money as possible in the pockets of our workers and employees in our businesses so that we can have a successful District 73. A lot of the bills that I had have come directly from constituents, and I would enjoy any bill that you have or concern that you have, please reach out. I'm more than happy to look at it. Enjoy working with state agencies and helping to get constituents answers when they can't get an answer. I always tell everyone, I can't promise you I'm going to give you the answer you want, but I can get a state agency to answer your question, usually. So those are the things that I would continue to focus on. I would appreciate your support on May 5th.
All right, Jennifer, thanks so much. Thanks for being with us this morning. All right, Ed, this is your 3-minute wrap up, and you can start.
Well, first of all, I will say one thing. I will continue to be working and outreaching in the community, and I would really appreciate your vote before on May 5th. And we have some really good things set up where your vote will count, and it is important. And a lot of times it goes by precincts, and you can win one vote, you win a precinct. And even though it's a total vote count in the 73rd House District, the more precincts you win, the better off you are. But I want you to realize that I'm in your communities, and I will continue to be in your communities. And what we will do is we will listen, communicate, and bring information to all forms of our society, no matter where you are in your society. And it's a great honor to be here today. I really appreciate it, and I think we're going to have a very good primary. Thank you.
All right, Ed, thank you so much. Once again, thank you both for being here today. Enjoyed our conversation. There's so many more topics we can hit, but limited amounts of time, and I hope we hit the big ones for our listeners today. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with Decatur County Council District 2.
Thank you.
11:32 here on WTR. We continue with our 2026 primary candidate political forum. We're joined now by Decatur County Council District 2. We've got Brian Messer and Danny Peters. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, we'll get ready to start here. Brian, you will go first with your 2-minute introduction, and you can start when you're ready.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for hosting, and happy birthday to Mr. Peters today. Found that out when we got here. So, my name's Brian Messer. Married to my wife Angie, 29 years. We have 3 children, Miles, Hannah, and Drew. I've lived in Southeast Indiana my entire life. My wife and I, don't hold this against us, graduated from East Central High School. That's where we met, and she moved on. She went to Earlham College, and I jumped into my entrepreneurial leanings, starting businesses. I moved to Decatur County in 1995. I'd like to say I chose Decatur County. However, thanks to 2 very prepared businessmen, Bernie and Dennis Haggerty, and a not so prepared 24-year-old at the time who started a machine shop in my partner's parents' garage. I needed some space for some equipment to grow the business. And, it wouldn't fit in the 15 by 30 garage that we started in. So the Haggertys lured me into Decatur County with the facility they had available for my business. Over the last 31 years, we've made Decatur County our home. We've built our businesses, coached youth sport teams, participated in fundraisers, participated in local projects, and built our family and great friendships in Decatur County. I'm simply running for county council to do my part in the community I call home. I plan to use my business and communication experience to help our community the best way that I can. I'm looking to help improve the quality of life, not just improve growth of business, but improve the quality of life for, the people of Decatur County. I think we need to protect what we have. My wife and I were blessed, kind of by accident, to be a part of this wonderful community, and it was the preparedness on the Haggerty's part that brought us here. So I believe our community needs to be prepared for growth in the country in the future, and I plan to do that. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brian. All right, Danny, you're up.
Okay, thank you for hosting this today, and good luck to Mr. Messer. My name's Danny Peters. I've got my wife of 36 years, Bonnie. I've got a son named Travis. I have a daughter named Tabitha. I've got 3 wonderful granddaughters, a grandson, a great-granddaughter, and I've been blessed with a great-grandson this last month. So things are going good in our family. We're rooted here in Decatur County. I was born here, raised here. I've lived 1 year of my life not in Decatur County, Bartholomew County, and that's a story for another time. I bought a house while my wife was at work and told her we were moving. So that's the reason I had to come back. I love it here. This is my home county. As far as the county council, this will be my 16th year. I serve on the county council along with the TIF board, along with the county fair committee. I'm also on the salary committee, the insurance committee, the tech support committee, and the comprehensive plan steering committee. So really, I don't do just one meeting a month. I'm actually in the county doing a lot of other things. Now, 3 of those meetings are scheduled monthly or bi-monthly. The rest of them are as needed. So, but I'm here to serve the people, and I hope I can get another 4 years and continue on. We've worked to bring in extra money through what we're calling economic development agreements, which I call them community impact fees. I was on that committee, and I want you to know that being on the county council is not an individual thing. You are on there with a group.
All right. Thank you, Danny. All right. First question, and we'll start with you. And a little bit different because you are currently on council.
Okay.
But why do you feel like you're qualified to continue to sit on council? And what is a top priority for you if you are reelected?
Well, I've served on a lot of committees, and I really stay involved. I'm not one of them that just go to the meeting and that's the extent of the program. I go to most of the AIC conferences, try to learn what the legislature's coming down to. Probably the most important thing coming up right now is Senate Bill 1, which is a property tax and a local income tax. We're going to have to kind of maneuver our way through this. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect the first time around. They still may need to do a lot of tweaking on it, but things are going to change here in about a year, and I just want to be around to make sure that it's a positive change and it doesn't affect the taxpayers badly or anything like that.
All right. Thank you, Danny. And Brian?
Well, I think what qualifies me is my time in business, growing businesses, building businesses. Personally, I have multiple businesses in town. I have hundreds of employees, and in doing that, I've developed an ability to listen, to understand what people want, what they need to be successful. And where Danny's on a lot of committees and done a lot, and thank you for that. That's fantastic. I think what I could bring is a different perspective and a different viewpoint on how to be creative. I believe in creativity over capital. I think there are ways that we can protect what we believe in, keep taxes low, and yes, the Senate Enrolled Act 1 is going to be a challenge, and that challenge needs to be creatively faced. So I think Danny, he's really involved, and that's awesome. So, but I look forward to the opportunity to do the same.
All right, thank you. All right, for next question, we'll start with Brian. With the additions to the fairgrounds, the ball diamonds, there's now discussion of a new animal shelter, and of course, you guys work with commissioners on a lot of this. Some of these projects have been funded through the government and tax money and those kind of things, while others are private funding. How do you make the decision of where these are funded, who's going to go through private donations, who's going to go through tax money, government money, and is there anything that you would handle differently than what they've already done?
The way it's done right now, I don't think so. I think they've done a pretty good job of handling, and I know there's a lot of private funds involved in the pool project, in the new community center that they built. I think the county's done a good job of managing the money that way. I think the improvements that are being made, for example, the ball diamonds, I think that's great. Those are things that bring revenue to the county. It brings outsiders in to spend money in restaurants and hotels, and that's tax money and revenue that we need as a community to generate. So I think we need to continue to invest in those projects going forward, because it's a way of life that we want to enhance in our county. But at the same time, I feel like the way they're doing it is pretty responsible. As much as you can get private funding and donations is excellent, and where the county needs to kick in to help support that based on a plan would be ideal. I think it's a good investment.
All right, thank you. Danny?
Yeah, I think the way they did it was a pretty good way to do it. The way it's operating now, it's like the fairgrounds. I was a part of that up until part of it on getting the fairgrounds. What we're trying to do is make the fairgrounds self-sufficient. We want to make sure it can pay for itself. The same way with investing in the ball diamonds. We want to make some of these, like Park and Rec out there, self-sufficient, so that if they do need upgrades, they can say, okay, we've got enough money put together, we can do it ourselves if we need to. Same way with the fairgrounds. The pool, a little different story. The pool probably will be profitable when it's open, but it's still something that has to be paid for the rest of the year. There's still bills there. So that can be built into their budget as far as parks goes. But as far as donations and the Ready Grant, the Ready Grant's been a really good thing for the county. And the donations, people really stepped up to the plate on donating. The TIF board really stepped up for the ball diamonds, stepped up for the new building at the fairgrounds, and then we've stepped up and the pool. We've made donations to the pool, so the TIF board that I'm on have really helped a whole lot. So I think the way things are going are going good. I just like to see all of those things self-sufficient down the road.
All right, thank you. Next question, Danny, we'll start with you. Decatur County continues to grow. The vitality of our county is council and commissioners working together. There have been several controversial topics, such as the data centers, the solar, approaching the community. How will you ensure that we can continue to work with commissioners, and how do we approach those controversial subjects together?
Well, those are really, I'm not trying to pass it on, but they're passed on to it isn't the Board of Works, that's in the city, but it'd be the BZA and things like that. I've been in on a few of the meetings with the solar and things like that. I have reservations about solar personally. That's me. I think the way it was handled, it was handled correctly. You turn one down, you have to can't deviate and set precedent on another one. Myself, we was talking about it out there. I am big on alternative energy. Now there's a new thing going in at the gas pipes at St. Paul, whether anybody kept up on it or not. They're going to compress the exhaust coming off and build turbines, and they're going to generate 10 megawatts of electricity off that. No bigger footprint, no nothing like that. To me, that's the kind of things we need to be looking into, is things like that. That's just me when it comes to that.
All right, thank you. Brian?
Well, I think part of it is communication. We need to communicate a little bit better between the city, between the county, with all the boards, everyone that's involved. I think sometimes there's a bit of animosity between the boards and the city and the mayor, and the development is important to all of us. So it's important that we communicate and we look at the projects that are coming to town or want to come to town, and approach that in a pragmatic way. So, for example, when you look at solar or you look at data centers and you look at these types of things, I believe that farmers should be able to do with their property what they deem fit to do with their property. It's their land. But at the same time, I also believe that what's going in there, they need to be good neighbors. And I think some of the decisions were right. I think some of the decisions could have been a little different. But overall, I believe that communication between all of the entities involved is going to be what is going to help us to make better decisions and choose what comes to town instead of what's coming to town choosing us.
All right, very good, thank you. Next question, Brian, we start with you, and Danny, you touched on this, you both did a little bit. Senate Enrolled Act 1 will create a financial impact to our community. With new projects being implemented, continual maintenance, and day-to-day operations, how is the county prepared to face those potential deficits, and what changes can be made to counteract the impact?
Thank you. So, I'm in a little bit of a disadvantage on this from not sitting on the council for so long and knowing all the ins and outs of it, but I can say that the Enrollment Act is going to have an impact on the general fund and all the funds coming into the county. So to be able to offset that, we have to get creative. We have to look at the costing and what we spend money on in the county like a business. The primary expenses that we have are payroll, it's roads, and it's insurance. So when I look at my business and how I run it, when I have a deficit, what's coming in, I have to look inward first. So I think we have to look inward to control those costs and figure out where we use creativity over capital. It's easy sometimes just to go right straight to say we're going to raise a tax on this, or we're going to add a food tax, or we're going to do this, that, or the other. And sometimes those are not the best avenues. I believe that we have to look inward and solve the problems the best we can before we look outside.
All right, thank you. Danny?
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a challenge. It's going to be the Senate Enrollment Act. Number one, we're going to look at they're going to take away 3 of our taxes, and then we can put 1 income tax on to replace those 3, which we will be really conservative about what we do there. Now, right now, I don't know if any of you know, but we've given abatements. We're trying to be creative on bringing money in. The county right now, we're financially really good and stable. We really are. We're not looking at any deficits. The only bill we've really got to pay is on the jail. We got a bond on the jail, and we're lucky that we got it done whenever we did. But we've put in what they call economical development payment, which I don't know if anybody knows, but battery storage, electric storage up by Shiloh Cemetery, We gave them a 10-year, 100% abatement. They're going to pay us, after it's up and running, $329,000 to $359,000 a year for 10 years. So this is helping. And then I touched on the gas lines up at St. Paul. That's going to, once it's up and running, it's going to bring in $82,000 a year for 10 years, $820,000. So we're looking at bringing in around $400,000 a year outside. The Senate really, when they took away personal property, they took away a lot of our tools when it come to abatements. And then they took away the 30% floor when on personal property. Now I know Mr. Messer's in business, he likes the sound of that, but if we don't get a little creative with abatements and get some of these companies to agree to it, and it'll save them money, and the money that comes doesn't get sent to the state, it comes directly to the county in an account that we get to keep.
All right, very good. Final question, Danny, we'll start with you. Over the last few years, there's been salary studies done trying to get county employees to where they need to be. How do you feel like that overall process has been handled and the satisfaction of our county employees at this point?
I think most of them are satisfied now. We're still tweaking on it. We've hired the company again, Irwin, Shealy, and Wagner, to go back, and we're trying to put together a salary draft where if you're hired, you know what you're getting paid. You know, we give it to the department heads and elected officials. They say, okay, here's what you start at. Now it can be deviated from. It's just a guideline to go by, is what it amounts to. But right now, I think they're working on the animal shelter and the parks department on upgrading. This payroll and salary is going to be a tweak job every year. You're going to have to, you got to start out somewhere, and now we're just tweaking along is what we're doing, trying to get things basically so where we can keep good people. We've got good people now, got good elected officials, we've got good department heads. The girls in all the offices are great. They all know their job, they do their job. If you want to keep them, maintain them, you have to keep up with the times.
All right, thank you, Danny. Brian?
Yeah, I agree with about everything right there. So I know from operating my businesses the challenges that we face now and upcoming with salaries and competitiveness with other businesses, other communities, and part of what helps attract people to work in our community is not just how much money they make, but the community that they're in. What amenities are here, what things that will bring them here to want to raise their families, good school systems, and those types of things. So where the challenges lie, yes, paying more money would be helpful, but also embracing the community and doing some growing in the community would go a long way in helping draw. We have tremendous challenges at Mesco of drawing talent, and it stems mainly from the ability to good housing, those types of things in our community, and we need to work hard towards that.
All right, thank you. All right, and we'll do our wrap up now. Danny, we'll start with you since Brian opened. You have 3 minutes to let voters know how you feel about things. And
Okay, I really, like I said, the council is just, you're not an individual person. There's 7 of us that make a decision. Now, you can have your own decision, and you can go back and look at my voting record. I'm probably one of the few that's voted no quite a few times on a few things because I didn't think it fit in what the taxpayers wanted me to do. I have one claim to fame being on the council. In the 15-plus years, I've missed 2 meetings. So you elected me to be on the council. I will be there every chance I get. I missed one because of COVID, and I missed a special meeting because of my wife having surgery. So I thought maybe it's a little bit more important to take her to that than it was go to a special meeting. And then there's something else I was going to talk about. I may deviate from this, but everybody's asked me about the buffalo. I'm hearing about the buffalo. Well, I got an email probably a few months ago about the buffalo. It was about to become extinct. So I got on the phone. I made a couple phone calls to organizations. I really couldn't get anybody to go along with me on it. So I called the organization that had it. I said, do not destroy it, don't get rid of it. I'm going to do something with it. So I made a phone call to a guy out in the country that told me to bring it to him. He's going to take care of it. So I called Bill Metz. Me and Billy went and we saved the buffalo from extinction. It's out in the country being fixed. So I'm not going to say who's got it, but the gentleman's fixing it for us at no cost, according to what he's saying. So look forward to the buffalo being back up, hopefully late spring, early summer. This was a project that me and Bill Metz kind of got into. I drug Billy into it with me, and the commissioner said we could put it right back where it was. So hopefully the buffalo's coming back.
That buffalo controversy will be over.
And it will be as good or better than it was. I'll guarantee it. So, I just want to know, I'm going on 16 years on the council. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I don't not just on the council. You heard all the committees I'm on. I live here. I've been here all my life. I love this little county. I'll do whatever I can. If you've got a question, call me. If I don't have the answer to it, I'll get the answer to it. I promise. I return all phone calls, everything like that. I will be involved. If you give me another 4 years, I'll be as involved as I am now.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today, Danny. All right, Brian.
Awesome. I don't know how you follow the buffalo. That was great. But thank you, Danny. You've done a great service to the community, and I hope to get the opportunity to do the same. I've lived in this. I'm not a lifer. I'm a transplant. I think my family and what we do and the things that we generate for the community is a good example of what we want to bring to Decatur County. I own several businesses. My wife owns her business here in town, Messer Rust Burkert Investments, and my son, which hopefully everybody's familiar with, my son, who owns Tree City Lube, and he's the only, by the way, locally owned quick lube in town. So, we've invested in the community. We're here. It's no different than what Danny's been here his whole life, and that's awesome. I haven't, but my kids have, and we're building generations here in Decatur County. And I've served on board of directors in manufacturing companies in Illinois and Michigan and Indiana. I've been involved in mergers and acquisitions. I've done a lot of business, and I understand the inner workings of committees and how to manage that. I'm used to budgets where I'm responsible for tens of millions of dollars. And in those tens of millions of dollars, that's my money that I'm spending. So I just want everyone to be assured that when I'm spending money for the county, I'm going to spend it like it's my money. And I'm used to doing it. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Save the buffaloes. Happy birthday, by the way, and thank you.
All right, Brian, thanks so much. Both of you, thank you for being here today, and we'll be back with County Council District 3 in just a couple minutes on Tree Country. 11:57 on Tree Country 1330. We are back with the political forum for the primary election coming up on May 5th. We've got Decatur County Council District 3, Andrew Brunei and Deanna Burkert. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to start. Andrew will do the 2-minute open, and you can start when you're ready.
All right. Well, thank you for having us. Appreciate you guys hosting. My name is Andrew Brunei. Just a little bit about myself. I am born and raised Southern Decatur County. I'm a South Decatur High School graduate. I went on to Purdue and then eventually getting a master's degree at Indiana Wesleyan in public administration. Again, I've been in Decatur County all my life. Jackson Township, actually, my wife and I chose to build a house just outside of Westport. Professionally, I used to own Donut Central along with my wife's family. We recently sold that. I'm also have been involved in marketing. I'm currently the marketing manager for our hospice. I've been there for the last couple years. I also currently serve on the Board of Zoning Appeals, appointed by the town of Westport back in February of 2025. With my background in business and nonprofit management, while that's helpful, for me it really just comes down to being from here, living here, and caring about what happens here. I know the people in District 3, whether that's Westport, Millhausen, or all the unincorporated areas in between, and I want to make sure that they are represented in the decisions being made, with taxpayers always coming first.
All right, thanks so much. All right, Deanna.
Good morning, and thank you to WTRE for hosting this forum this morning, and thank you for all of you that are listening now and at a later time. This process only works when people stay engaged, and I appreciate that, and I thank those who are willing to run. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's an important one. My name is Deanna Burkert. I currently serve as the District 3 County Council representative. My roots run deep here. My family has farmed in Decatur County for 5 generations, and now my children are the 6th generation to grow up here. This community isn't where I live, it's who I am. I also know what it means to work for what you have. I worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs to put myself through Indiana University, where I earned my degree in telecommunications and business marketing. That work ethic has stayed with me throughout my life. My husband, Bill, has worked for 38 years at Performance Food Group, and together we've raised 2 children we're incredibly proud of. My daughter, Morgan, is on the Dean's List at NKU's Chase Law School. She'll be finishing that up next May. And my son, Hunter, is a software engineer and graduated from Indiana University. For the past 7 years, I've had the privilege of serving on County Council. During this time, I've worked to be responsible with your tax dollars, to support our county employees, and to make sure we are planning not just today, but for our future. I've also had the honor of being named Indiana County Councilor of the Year in 2023, and currently serve as the president of the Indiana County Councils Association, which keeps me very busy. But what matters most is the work, and right now that work is becoming more important than ever, with major changes coming from the state that will affect both property taxes and income tax distribution. The decisions made over the next few years will directly impact every family in this county. That's why I'm running for another term, to continue to provide steady, experienced leadership during a time when it does truly matter. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Deanna, we'll start with you with the first question. A little bit different for you because you're already on council, but why do you feel that you're qualified to make that run again? And what is something that you would handle differently than what's already been done on during your current term?
What would I handle differently? Well, obviously, as I mentioned, that I have been very involved in county council. I've been on multiple and still am on multiple committees, both externally and internally with the county. I have worked to help us look towards the future more and not just be playing catch up. So we've done a very good job, and that's the hard part, is what would I do differently? Because we've done a very good job at making small steps towards progress, as far as not putting band-aids on things, but on making sure that we are planning, that we have a full picture of what our financial situation looks like. We've had a financial review. We now have a long-term planning committee that actually looks at, well, this needs done in the future, this needs done in the future. What's that going to cost, and how should we prioritize that? So those are all good things. I don't know, I mean, for me personally, I'm not afraid of change, so I see things and move, so it's hard for me the train takes a little slower to move sometimes. But I think we're making progress in the right direction. With these big changes coming up for taxes, I don't want to see us head the wrong direction. And that's the main reason I'm sitting here talking to you today.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, Andrew?
Yeah, the reason I'm running is, again, I'm from here. I care about the community. I'm currently serving on the Board of Zoning Appeals. I feel like this is a way to give back to the people, my neighbors, my friends, and give them representation. And then, as Deanna mentioned, there are a lot of changes coming up with Senate Bill 1 with property and local income taxes. And I think it's an important time to be involved and have a fresh perspective on a lot of changes that might be coming up.
All right. Anything that you would do handle differently from what's been done already?
I think we need to focus on taxpayers being put first. I know we've had some changes in the past. This is going prior to Deanna's time, but with the local income tax changes that were made back in 2018, I think if we're going to have projects, which I think we've started to do a little differently, like with the pool and as well as the fairgrounds, the building there, we're starting to fundraise, get community involvement, community input, and I think that's important for things that are outside of what I would consider to be core responsibilities of local government. I think it's important to try and get community buy-in that way, as opposed to looking towards tax increases first.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next question, and Andrew, we'll start with you. You mentioned the fairgrounds already, but with the additions to the fairgrounds, the Ball Diamonds, Discussion Avenue Animal Shelter, some projects are funded through government tax dollars while others are privately funded. How do you feel that you make the decision of where that funding comes from? And with council, how do you feel like they're handling those new projects?
I think it's a fantastic idea. I think the way, and I think a lot of credit needs to go to Commissioner Nobby on a lot of that, but especially with the pool. But we are doing. I think it's a great thing to get community involvement. Local government is essential and it's important, but you need to look at your core areas again, your roads, things like that, and provide stellar core services. And then things outside of that, you got to look at what's within your means, and if it's important to the community and it's not within your means, it seems like the community is willing to step up.
All right. Thank you. Deanna?
I think that the combination is always ideal. The projects that you've mentioned would not be possible if it weren't for government funding that were matched at a state level. Those funds are coming to an end, at least for now. I am on the READY committee. I was also on the ARPA committee. So a lot of the starter dollars that help those projects, both the community building and the Ball Diamonds, were started with those federal and state funds. So we did do a good job of utilizing those funds towards projects that would help our community. READY was a great program, and I know Danny mentioned that as well. Having our state invest in our community has been great for us. We also created a region with Shelby County, Rush County, and the cities, Decatur County and the city of Batesville, that has made monumental strides towards getting recognition and getting funding for our area. So going forward, that's going to be key for us to be able to continue to do strong projects like that. So without that starter money and local money to kind of go into that, and then the community jumping in, I don't know that community funding alone is really probably going, even for the animal shelter per se. We've got a lot of community support, but it's probably not going to be enough to get that project through the end without other findings of funding. The shelter's doing a great job of becoming a no-kill shelter. That's going to help bring grant money into it. So I think it's a matter of combining all of those resources and trying to tap in, make connections that will help us shine like we are in the READY grant and in our region to help show what we can do with those funds in improving our community and our state.
All right. Thank you. Next question, Deanna, we'll start with you. Decatur County continues to grow, and the vitality of our county as council and commissioners working together for those positive outcomes. There have been several controversial subjects, such as the data centers, the solar, that have approached the community. How do you ensure that you can work with the commissioners and continue that positive relationship, and how do you approach those controversial topics?
Well, I mean, I'm involved, again, on the committees that I'm involved at, I'm involved with the commissioners on a weekly basis. I think it's a matter of, and I think we've done, at least since I've started, and I can't say how it was before, but I think we've done a good job of working to communicate with each other. We do have different boundaries, right? The council is focused on the fiscal side. The commissioners are the keepers of the property, so there is a boundary there, but the better the communication, the better we're going to be. And that long-term planning committee that we just started a few months ago has 3 council members and 3 commissioners on it, so we're sitting together and talking. We've made some really good decisions on projects for the future, and I think we can do that going forward.
All right, thank you. Andrew.
Yeah, I would agree that communication between the council and the commissioners does seem to have improved in recent years. Like you mentioned, some of these projects and with growth, being on the BZA, I've worked with some of that firsthand, and while growth is important, we also need to do it in a way that's puts the people that already live here first, and the people that have built the community to be what it is.
All right, thank you so much. All right, next question, Andrew, we'll start with you. It's kind of been touched on throughout the morning from the beginning, but Senate Enrolled Act 1 creates a financial impact to the community. With new projects being implemented, maintenance, day-to-day operations, how is the county prepared to face those potential deficits, and what changes can be made to counteract the impact?
That's a big question. So yeah, Senate Bill 1, I don't even think we actually know the full extent to all the changes that are going to happen. I mean, now you're going to have counties working with municipalities even further on local income tax funding. There's changes to property taxes. And the state's really going back and revisiting some of those local income tax issues. I believe they pushed it off another year, if that's accurate. So I mean, it's a long-term play here, and it's trying to always be looking forward to the fact that there are going to be these changes, and that this is taxpayer money, I think, is the important thing. What the exact answers to all that is I don't think anybody actually knows currently. But making sure that we do realize that this is taxpayer money, and having an open mind as things evolve, and being ready to act and not react, I think is important.
All right, thank you. Deanna?
I think information and resources are going to be key. As the president of the Indiana County Councils Association, I lead group discussions of the entire state's county council people, which is a big voice. It's almost 700 county council people. So as the bills are being created, we are fighting in the background to make them the best outcome that we can. Obviously, legislators have their own minds, but if we can be a voice as to how that's going to affect, not one county size fits all. They're all very different. So I think it's great that we have the ability to voice what's going to happen in our county. We work very closely with the DLGF, which actually runs all of those numbers and gives us potential outcomes. So I'm getting that information firsthand for us so that we can, and as Danny mentioned, a lot of the guys have been very active in coming to those meetings so that we're informed and know what to expect. As Andrew said, there are still things being formulated, especially with the income tax. I have a conference call with my executive team tomorrow night at 7 o'clock on a Sunday night to talk about what those income tax issues are, how they're going to affect us, and how we can better fight to make sure the county has the best outcome possible. So I think it's just a matter of staying engaged. It's a moving target as anybody follows legislation at all. I'm sure they're going to be making some changes in the next year to 2 years. They've pushed it back because they sometimes don't have all of the information that's needed to make those decisions. So, but staying engaged, staying in the conversation, and trying to make the best plea we can for the best outcome is very important. Part of that income tax bill also allows for a specific percentage to be used towards firefighting and EMS. We are facing some issues and some requests currently for Decatur County from our EMS suppliers. which I feel like are probably very valid, but that's going to be a whole nother piece of the conversation that we need to take in.
All right, thank you so much. All right, next question. This one we'll start with Deanna. Again, we spoke with previously with District 2, but salary studies have been done. That's been a big focus over the last few years in getting county employees to where they need to be and happy. How do you feel like that has been handled, and where do you feel like our county employees stand at this point?
I've been very involved with this process, probably pushed for the process from almost the very beginning. You can go back and look at old council meetings, and I had people question whether we would ever even get a study done. Worked for 2 to 3 years going through data on a committee internally for those numbers, and then finalized that by working to get funding through ARPA funding, if I remember right, to have a firm come in and finalize those numbers. Paying our employees well is very imperative. The more turnover that you have, the retraining that you have to do, there's a lot of critical steps that they need to know. In the long run, costs us money. If we're retaining the people that have the knowledge, it's very important to keep them on board. And in the past, the staffing was very different. Like it was, I feel like, you know, when we were a farming community. So as the gentlemen were out in the farming, the ladies were in the courthouse. It's more of a professional situation now than it was in the past, and we need to treat it as such. And I think we've done the best job that we can. As we see, we're facing potential lowered numbers, which is really frustrating when we feel like we're finally getting up to market standards. But we'll just tackle that when it comes.
All right, thank you. Andrew?
Yeah, so making sure that we're competitive, as an employer is important. As Deanna said, you want to have good talent, you want to have, which we do, and you want to be able to retain that talent. I think that it's something that's more than probably just one study, though. I think it's probably a continual evolution of things, is to stay on top of that, make sure that all departments are, fairly compensated for the job that they're doing. And I mean, we have very diverse, we have highway departments, IT departments, we have treasurers, recorders. They all do very different things that help us, operate as a county, and just making sure that we're constantly on top of what that is, because if you sit stagnant on I've employed people before through businesses we've had, and if you're not able to provide them a competitive wage, they will leave. And as Deanna said, then you have the people that know what they're doing are no longer there, and that really just doesn't work out well for anyone.
All right, thank you. We have just a little bit extra time, so I'm going to throw one more question out there before we do our wrap-ups. If elected, what becomes your top priority if you are elected to council? And we'll start with Andrew.
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on a little bit with the changes that are coming to how counties and municipalities are able to do their taxation. The income tax rate that's going to be capped is going to be lower, but we also have to work with these with towns on that. There are changes to property taxes. I want to be a voice for taxpayers, specifically in District 3, so the people of Westport, Millhausen, Letts, Forest Hill, Alert, Sardinia. That's where I'm from. These are people that I know. They're my friends and neighbors, and I want to make sure that we're spending those dollars wisely, and that we look at it from a perspective that this is taxpayer funds. This isn't government money. This is money we're taking from people in order to do what we're doing.
All right, thank you. All right, and Deanna, obviously a little bit different for you because you're already on council, but if re-elected, what is your top priority for this term?
I'd say my top priority is navigating the taxation system for sure, and making sure that we are doing the best with what we have and not asking for more than we need. I also think that making sure that we're continuing to make progress, again, monitoring projects that are to come, planning and funding for those. Andrew, we are actually, the schedule is to redo our income compensation study every 3 years. So hopefully continuing to keep that going. But yeah, the biggest piece on any county's plate right now is going to be that tax piece, both on the income level and on the property tax level. I will say, just to give a compliment to the folks that came before me, I know it was very controversial when we did the jail and all of the taxation that came with that, But I can tell you that there are many counties in our state that wish that they were in our seat getting ready to pay off a jail and not struggling now with the lower taxation that we're facing to create something like that. So I think our county is very well off when it comes to that situation.
All right, thank you so much. All right, and we will start our 3-minute wrap-ups. Deanna, we'll start with you since Andrew opened, and you've got 3 minutes to let folks know where you stand.
All right. Well, thank you again to everyone. As you think about this election, I'd like you to consider what kind of leadership we need right now. The next few years are going to bring some of the most important financial decisions our county has faced in a long time, with changes at the state level, how property taxes are structured, and how income tax dollars come back to our county will be different, and those decisions won't be simple. There will be pressure to make quick decisions. There will be talk about cutting taxes or making big changes. And while that may sound good, the truth is it's not that simple. Every decision we make affects our roads, your emergency services, your courthouse, and the day-to-day services that people rely on. If we get it wrong, the impact won't just be today, it will be felt for years to come. That's why this isn't the time for guesswork. It's not the time to learn as you go. It's the time for steady leadership, careful decision-making, and understanding how all of the pieces fit together. Over the past 7 years, I've worked to build that understanding. I've learned how to ask the right questions, how to work through complex financial issues, and how to make decisions that balance today's needs with tomorrow's responsibilities. I've also had the opportunity to serve at the state level, bringing knowledge and resources back home to Decatur County. But at the end of the day, my focus has always been right here. This job isn't about making promises, it's about doing the work, being accessible, listening, and making thoughtful decisions that hold up over time. This county has given so much to my family over 6 generations. I take that responsibility seriously every single day. I'm asking for your trust to continue that work, to stay steady in the decisions ahead, and to help guide Decatur County through the changes that are definitely coming. I would truly appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today. All right, and Andrew, your 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. I want to make sure that the people of District 3 are represented in the decisions being made and that taxpayers are always put first. Again, this is about, Westport, Millhausen, Letts, Alert, Sardinia, Waynesburg, Forest Hill, and all the unincorporated places in between, like where I live. That is my home. I want to make sure that their voices are heard and that they're represented here. I've already had the opportunity to begin serving our community through the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I would appreciate being able to continue to serve the people of District 3 through the County Council as well. I believe in staying accessible, listening, and focusing on practical decisions that make sense for our community. At the end of the day, it's not about politics, it's about doing what's right for the people that live here. Thank you for taking the time to listen this morning. Please feel free to reach out to me. I have a Facebook page, campaign page, if you are so interested in going there. And again, I appreciate your support and WTRE's time here. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you both for being here today. We appreciate your time, and good luck as we approach the primary. It's 12:20 here on Tree Country 1330. We'll be back with Ashley Imsweller-Hungate. 12:23 here on this Saturday afternoon now, I guess. We're back with the 2026 primary political candidate forum. We've got Ashley Imsweller-Hungate joining us this morning, Decatur County Council District 4, running against Larry Heger and Kevin Gay. They are not with us this morning. Welcome, Ashley. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for hosting this.
All right, we're just going to start right in. So we will start with you're on council now. Tell us, why do you feel like you're qualified to run once again, and what is something that you would handle differently that's happened over this last term?
Oh gosh. Okay, so this is my 5th year on council, so I'm running for my 3rd term. And I also have 18 years in state government experience across 5 different agencies. And in that time, I have learned a lot about the way government works in general, as well as the revenue funds, following the money, that type of thing, to make sure that we're using our resources the best as possible. Thinking about what I would do differently, I was cautious in my first few years on council and not speaking up much because I really wanted to understand things before I spoke up and had a strong opinion. And I feel like I didn't give myself enough credit back then, and that I could have spoken up earlier than I actually did.
All right, very good. Next question. With the additions to the fairgrounds, we've got the ball diamonds, discussion of a new animal shelter. Some of these projects have been funded through government money, READY money, ARPA money, private funding. How do you make the decision of how these are funded, and do you agree with how council has been handling these projects?
I think we have done a good job with these situations that we've been given in this new way of doing things with the community building, the way that we're looking at doing the new animal shelter. It really comes down to 3 factors. It's community involvement and donation, it's grant funding or outside funds, and then what county resources are we putting towards that. And I think we really need to look at how can we maximize those county dollars while also getting more people involved and engaged in things that they can really be proud of in their community. And speaking of being proud of things, I am so proud of the animal shelter. Just this month, they officially achieved no-kill status, which means they have an over 90% save rate every month for the last year. And those girls have had a lot of challenges up against them in the last year, but they have overcome, and we are officially no-kill status, which opens up so much more grant opportunity to actually build that new shelter building.
So excited for them. They've worked very hard for that.
They have. They've worked very hard.
Decatur County continues to grow, and the vitality of our county is council and commissioners working together, hold 2 different fiscal and property responsibilities.
Correct.
There have been several controversial subjects, such as the data center, solar, that have approached the community. How do you ensure that you can continue to work with the commissioners for a positive outcome, and how do you approach those controversial subjects that come up?
Sure. So working with the commissioners, I think in the past we were not as tightly connected or communicating as much as I would have liked to have seen. But in the last year, we've started an official long-range planning committee where all the commissioners are represented, as well as half the council. And we have meetings every other week where we're talking about what's most important to the county right now and moving into the future. That way we're prepared for the next 10 to 15 years and really putting thought into what those planning efforts need to look like. So that is great. What was the second part?
The controversial things,
Oh,
such
the
as data and solar.
So with the controversial subjects that we are up against right now, the council has not necessarily had an active role in that, but I can tell you that when we do have any controversial topic, I always think first, I'm not just representing myself and what my opinion is. I'm representing about 6,000 people in my district, and I want to hear from them. I want to know what their opinions are, what the impact is that they feel, the impact to property owners, what it's going to do for our community in the long run. If I'm out at birthday parties, school events, Cub Scout meetings, whatever it may be, I'm always asking, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? How have you been impacted by this thing? That way, when I am actually making my decision and my vote, I am trying to represent that population as best as possible.
All right, very good. Senate Enrolled Act is a hot topic. It creates a financial impact to the community. With new projects being implemented, we've got continual maintenance, day-to-day operations. How is the county preparing to face potential deficits, and what changes can be made to counteract that impact?
You know, we have been talking about this for quite a while now and watching the way that bill has moved and how it may move again in the future. And I think right now the county is in a pretty good place. We're in a much better place than other counties around the state. But I think it's going to be really important to continue working with our state representatives, city administration, that type of thing, to make sure that we are doing things that really stabilize the county and put us on the best foot forward for the future.
Right. The hard part with the Enrolled Act 1 is there is not a lot of definition at this point.
Correct. And I expect that to continue to be a moving target. In years to come, we are going to continue to try to complete a balanced budget, engaging those department heads within the county to see where we can make cuts or be more conservative with things, while also prioritizing things that keep us moving forward in a positive way.
All right. We've talked about the salary studies this morning. You've been a part of that as
Yes.
well. How do you feel like the salary studies have been handled, as well as how your county employees now feel about where things stand?
Sure. So I've been involved in the salary study process since the beginning, and that also has been a moving target, but it was such a large undertaking that it would have been impossible to get it perfect in the first year. I mean, just in the last 4 years, we implemented official job descriptions for all county employees. We didn't have those before this initiative started. But we're trying to make sure that each division has the appropriate staffing levels and that their salaries are moving up in a way where our employees feel valued. We continue to bring in outside consultants to help us with those, to make sure that we're getting an outside party really weighing in. And the consulting firm we've chosen, they do these studies for municipalities and governments all over the state. So they really are the experts in their field. And by involving them, we're making sure that we're getting it right, that our people feel valued. And I feel like investing in those experts is just like how we involve investment firms or contractors or things like that for some of our largest line items. Our people are our most important resource, and we need to treat them well.
All right. If reelected, what becomes your top priority for this term?
So I think we've done a lot of good in the last 5 years, but I want to continue prioritizing putting processes in place to make things more efficient, transparent, consistent. The example I've used with the Long Range Planning Committee is we know a roof is going to wear out eventually. If we put a new roof on in the next 10, 15, 20 years, we know it's going to need to be maintained or replaced. Why are we only dealing with that the year that it actually happens? Why are we not planning for it ahead of time? And I think any time that we can put that forethought in place is very important.
All right. We're going to give you 3 minutes to wrap up. Again, thank you for being here today and sharing your views on everything. So this is your chance to tell everyone where you stand.
Yeah, thank you. So I am hopeful to get the opportunity to continue the work that I've already started. For those that don't know much about me, I've been in Decatur County my entire life. My husband and I have a small farm outside of St. Paul where we have our 4 children, some mini donkeys, a lot of rescue dogs. One thing I'm really excited about this year is my name is on the ballot, and it's my oldest child's first chance to vote.
Oh, how exciting. Think about that.
He just turned 18 last month, and so when he goes to vote in May, my name will be right there, and that's really exciting for me because public service has always been such a big part of my family. Between my mom, dad, brother, and I, we have more than 90 years full-time public service to the state of Indiana and the citizens of Indiana. So I'm hopeful to hit 100 years with that. Very excited to see what's coming up for the county. We do have some challenges ahead, but I think that we can manage it with strong communication, thoughtfulness, and working together.
All right. Ashley, thanks for being here this morning. I know you had the long haul out there having to wait for everyone else to get through, but we appreciate your time and being here. Once again, the primary election will be on Cinco de Mayo. What better day to have election day? Early voting starts on Tuesday, April 7th, so we're just about a little over a week away from that kicking off. So once again, this has been our 2026 Primary Political Forum. You can catch that on YouTube if you didn't have the opportunity to watch the entire thing. It's Tree Country 1330 WTRE.